There was a lot of tension in the air right before UFC 270. Did you sense it? Because we're here to tell you all about the dispute between UFC President Dana White and our beloved heavyweight champion Francis Ngannou. One little birdie told us that it was about Ngannou's contract with the UFC. Keep watching to learn more about why his matches were delayed, his unfortunate injuries, and what we're expecting for the future. First up, Dana White finally acknowledges the elephant in the room. Well, it was about time, wasn't it? By now, everyone knows that the UFC was having problems with none other than the Predator. He hasn't played a single match since UFC 270, and with the UFC 275 event coming up, people were bound to start asking questions. White was just talking about the upcoming event in Singapore on June 11 when he was asked about Ngannou. He responded in quite the political way, saying that they're currently having some negotiations. Wait, what negotiations? If you've got no idea what they're talking about, then allow us to fill you in. Remember when Ngannou fought in UFC 270 back in January 2022? Alright, so he defeated Cyril Gane by unanimous decision over there. That fight was incredibly important to the Predator for two reasons. One, it was his 6th win in a row, and two, it was his final fight under his current contract with UFC. Unfortunately, soon after his bout with Gane, Ngannou had a really bad knee injury. We mean he actually needed surgery to fix his knee. That's how bad. And since then, the Predator hasn't been catching any prey, pun intended. Instead, he's been focusing on recovery. Now let's remind you that Ngannou is no regular heavyweight fighter. He's actually the undisputed UFC heavyweight champion. That's quite a big deal. But when he had that knee injury, the UFC took some hard decisions to move forward without the heavyweight division. Even though the fans have their fingers crossed for Ngannou to return to get his crown, there's actually a huge reason why he can't do that. Turns out, Ngannou and the UFC hadn't really been seeing eye to eye in the events leading up to UFC 270, so it was a pretty convenient time for the UFC to just move on without him. Most of us sensed the tension between White and Ngannou when he didn't wrap the belt around the Predator's waist after the match. Thankfully, there's no lost cause. By now, we've heard Ngannou talk about how he wants to step out of the octagon and into the boxing ring multiple times, but we're not sure how White feels about this anymore. Back in the day, before the UFC 270 event happened, White told an interviewer that the promotion and Ngannou will figure things out one way or the other. Unfortunately, things have changed quite a bit since then. When an interviewer asked about Ngannou now, the UFC president responded, saying there's no lost cause. He seemed pretty chill about the situation, simply because it was just business as usual for him. He didn't offer any insight about Ngannou's future with the UFC, but we're still hoping they sort their issues out and let the heavyweight champion put on another awesome show. But here's what Ngannou said: "If we already got your hopes up, then we'd like to apologize for what we're about to tell you." Unfortunately, Ngannou told reporters last week that he's never fighting for UFC again, not after the UFC 2070 event. And that was us sugarcoating it for you. What he really said was that he won't fight for any amount of money anymore. Even if the US pays him $600,000, it's still over. Ngannou also added that he took the UFC 270 fight for personal reasons only. He didn't want to leave any loopholes for the UFC, saying that whether it was fair or not, he still completed the fights that were on his contract. Now, let's take you back to how it all began. But where did all this drama start from? Oh yeah, the UFC 265. Back last summer, when the UFC booked Derek Lewis vs. Gane for the heavyweight title, White and Markel Martin had a pretty public fight. And if you don't know who Martin is, then that's Ngannou's awesome agent. Anyway, long story short, what happened was that the UFC went behind Martin and Ngannou's back by booking Lewis. The only problem was that Ngannou hadn't confirmed the date for the match yet, so the UFC just booked someone else. Isn't that just blindsiding? Later, ESPN's Brett Okamoto dragged himself into the middle of the drama when he made an Instagram post about the situation. He quoted and mocked Martin after being shocked that the UFC went in a different direction for the interim heavyweight title fight. Not long after, White responded to Okamoto's post in the comment section, saying that Martin was so full of it. He didn't really say it, he said the other rhyming word. You get it. That isn't even all that White said. Instead, he went on and on about how Martin already knew everything that was going on and is just pretending to be shocked now. According to White, the UFC had told him several times that if they wouldn't finalize a date, the UFC would have to book somebody else. As for Ngannou, White said that his management was incompetent and that he needs better people to help boost his career forward. And that's when things got personal. Martin replied to the whole thread with his own point of view. He said that White probably doesn't like the fact that Ngannou is being represented by another agency, which is why they're just playing tricks to get Ngannou to partner with the UFC. Martin even threatened to pull out all the receipts to prove who was right and who wasn't. He said he's ready to disclose everything to the public: emails, calls, texts, everything. Unfortunately, we never heard the end of this argument. We were hoping to see more leaked receipts here and there, but it's a shame that we didn't find any. Lastly, it's all about the money too. UFC fighters being extremely underpaid has been a topic of discussion for quite a while now. In February 2020, the New York Post exposed that the UFC paid its fighters less than 16% of the revenue they were making. Let's compare that to other big sports leagues, shall we? Well, Major League Baseball, the NFL, and the NBA all distribute somewhere between 48 and 50% of their revenues to the players. We're just speculating, but maybe Ngannou just quit the UFC because he got tired of the exploitation. If the under 16% of revenue being paid to players speculation is really true, then we might be seeing more and more of UFC's top players leave the league for good. Next, in other news, Ronda Rousey's dream opponent. UFC Hall of Famer Ronda Rousey has finally revealed the one person who could make her jump back into the octagon. Being honest, none of us saw this coming. Most of Rousey's fans were talking about Juliana Pena, Amanda Nunes, and even Valentina Shevchenko, but the name that Rousey took wasn't amongst any of these. During her appearance on the Kurt Angle show, Rousey revealed that she'd come back for Gina Carano. Even though Rousey said that she'd said it like a million times before, we doubt she's ever said it out loud to the fans. Turns out, Carano is the reason why Rousey got into fighting in the first place. She was her idol, and she'll forever be grateful for it. And now for Jędrzejczyk's emotional retirement. After Jan Jędrzejczyk suffered a brutal KO loss to Zhang Weili during the UFC 275, something super emotional happened. After the big match, the former strawweight champion decided to take her gloves off and leave them on the canvas for good. Turns out, Jędrzejczyk has officially retired from professional competitions. UFC Hall of Famer Michael Bisping seemed to be one of those who got a little teary during the night. In his YouTube video, Bisping explained that he was so close to the moment and got pretty emotional. He added that Joanna had done a lot for the sport, with her heart, her soul, and everything else. Bisping wasn't the only one who found Jędrzejczyk's retirement emotional. Turns out the 35-year-old Polish fighter received nothing but praises for her incredible career at UFC. Finally, we have disfigured faces for Prochazka and Teixeira. There's no denying that the UFC 275 was a beautiful sight for all combat sports fans. All those punches felt like the fighters didn't leave anything behind, and we saw that go down during Yuri Prochazka and Glover Teixeira's big fight. Toward the end, both the fighters had blood all over their faces. Even though Prochazka took his well-deserved light heavyweight title home that night, he didn't leave without some brutal marks either. Neither Prochazka nor Teixeira was spared cuts, bruises, swelling, or closed eyes. Now that they're posting on Instagram, we're getting a better look at their injuries, and boy do they look painful. Guess that's just part of these combat sports then. And that's a wrap for this video. What do you think will happen between Ngannou and White? Can they really come to an agreement? Let us know in the comments below. Don't forget to give this video a thumbs up and subscribe to our channel for more awesome content like this. See you next time.